Hello, welcome to your reading today. So today we are doing a pick a pile as usual. This one is going to be stepping into your destiny. There's a few different ideas popping around today, and I feel like today I'm on the last day of the month of June, and we're coming into July. If you're watching this in the future, that's absolutely fine. These are timeless. They're not really held by the bonds of time as we see it. So, decided to use a different deck for the pick a pile and also got some crystals out. Now, I don't know what these are. These were mixed, so I will show you them once we've got the piles, but it was just like a mixed bag of like small tumbled stones. And so I picked 3 for today. All right, so pile 1. Again, stepping into your destiny, take this however you will. Okay, so if you're choosing pile number 1, you have the card the Queen. And your crystal is a little, what color would you say? Cerulean, maybe? Teal colored stone. For pile number 2, you have the ring. And your crystal here is like a translucent with like a band of blue. And for pile 3, you have the Mystic. And pile 3, your crystal is another translucent crystal. However, this is purple. It's like a purpley color, but very, very transparent. Okay. Well, everyone, this will be the piles. Down in the description below will be the timestamps. I'll give you some time to pick whichever one's calling to you. Remember, this is stepping into your destiny. Take it however it comes through. I will be channeling whatever message is right for each pile. And you can take what you like from the pile and leave what you don't, and whatever resonates will be what's true to you and helpful for you. So yeah, I'll see you in your reading. Hello, welcome pile number 1 to your reading today. So you've chosen the Queen. What an interesting symbolism too. We've got this, looks like a lotus flower or like a water lily, maybe? Something like that. And this person's hand with looks like a snake wrapped around it, maybe. Some red gem here and this moon. So stepping into your destiny with the Queen coming through has that air of regalness, but it has like a strong air of responsibility. When I was shuffling the other cards, the things that were playing through my mind was like, the difference between the King and the Queen was the Queen, it depends on the situation, right? Because we've had in the past Queen Elizabeth II in, English monarchy, and her partner couldn't be a king because otherwise that would technically outrank her. So he was prince. And so she was the head of the state, right? She was the leader. Whereas majority, through many different monarchs, the queen, if they have a king, the king kind of like outranks the queen. And the reason why I'm bringing all that up anyway is the difference in responsibility. So looking at more of the queen that has a king, responsibility would have been adding culture into the courts, right? Adding new, potentially upliftment in modern society as it would have been in those days, whether it was adding like teaching or schooling for women, whether it was, focusing on fashion or like gossip or whatever, it would have been very different for all of them. But there was like this idea of responsibility, like what mark do you leave, what legacy do you leave, that kind of thing. So that's what's kind of coming through, and where you step into is internally. This doesn't feel like an external kind of step. You're not stepping out of yourself to get something. You're stepping within yourself to unravel something. And it's interesting with this little flower here because of watching a few different documentaries when these water lilies or like, I guess lotus flowers, I don't know exactly what they're called, but they have huge leaves. And when they're popping up from the mud right into the top of the water, they fan out. So there's like space, right? There's a lot of space, and it's like real estate. The more bigger leaves, the more energy you'll get from the sun, more you can photosynthesize. And some of the leaves that spread out have thorns to kind of like stab into the other plants, which seems kind of violent, really. And with talking about plants, right, it's kind of just interesting. I don't know why that needed to come through, but that kind of idea is coming out in this reading, this idea of dealing with competition, or there's some kind of like, there's a lot involved in this one role. It's not just so simply as like, you're queen, therefore you are higher than these people, or like you have control over this, that, and the other. It's not quite like that. There's so much more to it. Anyway, I don't know where that's going exactly, but I'm going to shuffle some cards and get you some oracle. So I'm using a few different cards today. There's quite a few. And some decks that I don't always use on collective readings for YouTube. So it should be an interesting one. But anyway, how do you step into your destiny? Or stepping into your destiny. It's not really like a how-to. This is just a reading, really. A reading around that theme or that energy. Use these ones. They just got a slight different texture to them that can reflect the light a little bit. So I'll put these here. Okay. Thank you. It's quick. Grab a couple of these. Oh, let's straighten this up. There's an energy coming through for this reading specifically of like Lord Shiva. I don't know if any of you work with Lord Shiva or know of Lord Shiva, but maybe you want to look him up and his representation. There's just something there. All right, let's look at your oracle cards. Spread these out a little. All the eyeballs upside down. Okay, so your first card you have is Michel de Notre Dame. Nostradamus. So this will be like Nostradamus here. Premonitions. Interesting with him because there's a lot of talk about him, right? And it's interesting because if someone brings through premonitions and then people avoid certain things and they don't come true, they've kind of proved that person wrong. But then they've also helped that person with the premonition avoid certain situations potentially, right? So you kind of can't win in that kind of sense when you think about Nostradamus and criticism or just ideas about what he has done. Also, if you've ever looked up, who is it? Dolores Cannon. She did some, what would you say? Sit-ins? What do you do it? Like, no, not meditation. Hypnosis type situations with certain people and connected through with Nostradamus. So I think she has some books about it. I haven't read any of them. I don't know what they'll be like, but that's just another idea as well. But premonitions coming through. So this, I would say, just pretty cleanly would be having ideas or having dreams. If you've been having dreams, make sure you write them down, because a lot of the people that I connect with are having many different dreams, or very, very clear dreams, very vivid, or just like 50 in a day, like 50 overnight, right? And you wake up kind of slightly exhausted. There's a lot of that happening too. There may be something in there or a theme that they're trying to tell you. Don't get too bogged down with the like overall meaning, let's say. How do I word this? Like maybe it's not so much about this whole situation. It might be about a certain color that popped up, or a type of hat that was in a strange place. Or, it could be the whole theme and you're bogged down with the details. Just be very open with how you put things down, but be detailed. If you saw a cat and you remember the color, put it down. If it was like a strange looking cat or had an extra leg or something, put that down. Like, put down the nuances as well, even if they seem mundane, because you never know when you reread it what it's going to spark in your mind. But premonitions coming through. This is like having an idea or a grand idea of what you want in the future. So you're already at that step of kind of knowing what destined, or where you want to go, right? What you want in your life. And the Queen coming through is understanding that as well. See, we've got more this kind of dream idea. I've got the Aswang and the Pelecitos, which is exploit, desire, and materialism. So that could come into question. Here she's dreaming about more money, basically. And while she's focusing on that, she's not focusing in on what's happening to her, which is this kind of like, scary monster type thing, which is feeding off her mind or feeding off her dreams. And she's not paying attention to it because she's too focused on something else. So this could be just like, be very aware of your surroundings. Where are you being exploited? Where are you being limited, especially if it's about work or about what's possible in your future? It's interesting, a little scrub turkey just walked past the window while I was saying that. So you've also got a Star Child and the Fire Arrow with multifaceted visions and starseed. Interesting here, you've got Nostradamus with premonitions right next to the starseed or visions card. This is like having a very clear mind. You might even be starting to get prophetic dreams or psychic images or something like that. Like that kind of energy is coming through. Okay, this one. You've got the message of pleasure. Pleasure in this mind is like these stairs are leading up to a gateway. So you're like on the journey, right? You're on the journey towards, I guess, what is destined. I know destiny can be a bit like of a iffy subject with some people, but like you are already walking towards a particular dream or goal. There are steps to be taken. They're not at the gateway yet, but that's okay. It's starting to become more and more real or visual. You're starting to see what it can offer. There's this like abundant looking healthy deer, right? Or that, and these flowers, like you're starting to get out of the murkiness of the past and start to really see what the queen is. Sometimes people think a queen is someone who like calls people out or like yells at someone, right? And it's like, yeah, that's like boss energy or the whatever. This is really talking about what it feels inside, not about what you do externally. This is like what you feel internally and what you are seeing within yourself, where this desire or end result will be uplifting, fulfilling, or just like a new world for you. It's kind of like it's more than just the material, if that makes sense with this card. You have the waning crescent moon with surrender, restoration, and trust. Again, trust the process. Believe what you're feeling and seeing too. It doesn't mean you have to make a big change in your life or do something about it immediately. It's just like let it come through without criticism or judgment and see how it feels. You also have Capricorn, which feels great with the Queen card. This one says disciplined, tenacious, and resilient. Capricorn. Capricorn might be an interesting thing to look at with placements as well. I don't know if there's anything necessarily happening with Capricorn or Capricorn in general, but if there's something there that you feel is like, oh, okay, well, this is in my whatever chart, maybe this is really now time to focus on whatever that kind of represents, right? Whether it's like fun, hobbies, that kind of thing, or whether it's like yourself or relationships. Regardless, it's not going to tell you the whole story. It's just like something to be aware of, let's just say, since it's popped out. Because it doesn't feel like the disciplined and all that really is huge on this, although resilience and discipline is important here, like to take the necessary steps forward. This isn't just something that unfolds without some kind of effort, but this doesn't seem like it's like, you have to study or train really hard for the next 6 years or something. This is more of like being aware, being mindful, and continue striving towards your goals, because whatever they are for you, they're across this like gateway. Okay, so let's see what else they want to say about this reading. You've got the Death card. Kind of interesting. Like the imagery is really slightly confusing, right? Because the mouse, I mean, for the owl, it's life and death, and obviously for the mouse, it's life and death. But it's interesting with these like little eyes and then going over the barb. So this is like you're overtaking, or you have an opportunity to overtake. What would you say? You have an opportunity to avoid something, and that's where the premonitions and the ideas are coming through. Some of these premonitions may come from other people. They might be like readings that you get, or just like conversations that you have that that trigger or like spark something. Could be like that. But yeah, the owl doesn't have to go through all the bramble or whatever this is, spikes, right? It goes over it, and so you're able to avoid like the slog. You might think you have to go through a slog, and you can just completely bypass it. You may be already on that path of bypassing it. I don't think you're going to go through it anyway. So if you ever fear that you are, don't have to. It's not something that's necessary to reach a goal. It's like, back in the day, people would have just studied plants and that kind of thing without having to go to university to study biology. Let's say if you wanted to be a botanist, you just went out in the field and did it. And we've kind of lost that, where we need something external from ourselves to validate why we're looking at things. It's like, inventors don't always do that. They can drop out. And some people do that, right? We've got people out there that are very wealthy from dropping out and going on a path of doing what they actually feel called to, instead of learning a big broad thing and then just having a piece of paper that tells you you're able to do it when you could just do it. So there's something like that that's coming through. But you have to believe it. Like if you don't believe that that's the way you can do it, then you'll create your own future. You'll set that weed in that future garden. Nine of Swords. Nine of Swords. This is always such an interesting card, this particular one, because, the mother polar bear is worried about the future. The ice caps are melting. Things like hunting grounds are harder to go through. The cub is just chill. It's not worried about the future, right? It's focusing on now. And right now, sleep is important. So it kind of comes to like, yes, the future, you want to prepare for what could happen, but we could prepare for any type of situation and then miss out on the day. So right now, sleep and energy conservation is important for this little cub. And probably for the mother too. we're all connected, so it feels like, you know, when she's stressed, it can cause worry or just that energy around the child as well. So being really aware of your energy is important, I would say, with this one. Try to focus on the next step rather than the next 25 steps. Temperance, moderation. Another major card coming through. An interesting one with the frog. Like, it does have its land. It does have its legs in the water and on land or on this rock, which is very typical of like that balance, right? This isn't just a 3D message. This isn't just a spiritual message. This is taking into consideration your human experience as well as your soul. You've got the star child, right? Star seed energy. My intention with this was a soul traveling the cosmos and coming to Earth and deciding to incarnate for whatever reason. Right, and last one here, we've got the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords is intelligence. I see them as intelligence. One of the cards, I think it's in the Lightseers. This, I can't remember if it's exactly the Page of Swords, but it's just popping up in my head. And she's got a book, and she's got like these ropes with light bulbs, and they're spinning around, and she has to walk across this thin line. But she's created something where she doesn't have to go over that exactly the way that, you know, people might walk up to it and intend. She doesn't balance. She doesn't have to do that because she's already invented something to just bypass it. And that's what it is. It's like you're not bypassing a lesson because you are avoiding it. You're bypassing it because you don't need to learn something. And so this reading is really saying you don't have to go along a path of struggle or challenge. It doesn't have to be that way. You can actually make really good headway by using your brain, right? Or using the resources that are around you. But it has to be looked at as in a today type thing, not a, well, what could happen in 3 years or 4 years or 5 years? Will I get married by this time? Will I have this job? Will I have like the perfect house or this, that, or the other? Who knows, right? Things change. Things are always evolving. So you're better off focusing on now and today and what your resources are and how you can support yourself and others around you as to you know, finding where you'll end up rather than focusing on where you'll end up. It's like, today I'm going to focus on this. That's what's important for me today. My body is sore. I'm going to rest. I don't need to think about myself as a cog in a machine that needs to be constantly productive. That's why machines break, right? Because we just keep working them until there's a problem. And we don't want to do that, especially with like airlines, right? That's why there's constant maintenance. And that's why those things happen very rarely, although this year has been a bit wild with flights, but you know what I mean. Okay, so this is stepping into your destiny. I want to pull some more cards, but I don't know what for. I'm just going to shuffle them. I do like that the surrender and restoration and trust is, it's like believing in self, that you don't need anyone else to tell you if you're on the right track or anything. Because you're already worthy of this kind of like energy, right, or status, but you have to believe it for it to be true. It's like someone can be in power, or a king, right, can be in power, but if he doesn't believe it, he'll be taken out pretty quick, or will be, you know, manipulated quite quickly. So it's so much more than just like more and more money or more and more, I don't know, likes or something like that, right? It's about bringing out what's within. So I want, since we're starting with that, I'm going to go within and see what you can do within to bring out what's true to the outside world. Okay, these cards really came through. Okay. So what can you do going inwards? You've got the moon card, which is that trusting self, right? Believing intuition. You don't always know what's in here. Here, this little, I don't know, coyote? I don't know, wolf, doesn't exactly know what's in here, right? Can't really see it until it knocks it over. It just trusts and believes that there's something in there. Maybe it can hear something, uses its, not just intuition, right? We have so many other senses. So it's like trusting and believing that it's been guided to where it needs to be to hopefully find the fish, right? Unfortunately, it looks like it's pushed into the water, so it may not get it, but it still has been able to find what it was looking for, which is a meal. Yeah, look at this. This is huge trusting intuition. You've got the moon and the high priestess. High priestess doesn't always divulge all the information. It's about, it's not like, it's kind of like if someone came along and said, here's everything that's going to happen in your life, right? And it's like, okay, cool. So I do this. Well, I don't want this. It's like, well, you can avoid it, right? It's like, well, how do I avoid it? Well, here's all the information. It's like, well, what about this? Here's all the, it doesn't work like that. And I don't think that would be learning or helpful anyway. That's kind of like being told how to live life, where you tell yourself how to live life. And this is, again, trusting intuition, going within. How do you go within? You go within. Like, basically, that's what it's saying. You start to feel things or sense things or, like, trust that inner knowing, whatever that may be. That's how you get into, like, the true self or, like, the destined path, let's say. And then you've got the Six of Pentacles, and this one's just purely saying to me, in my head anyway, it talks about that exchange here. We've got a kind of some what do you call it, symbiosis relationship between the, looks like a buffalo of some sort, water buffalo maybe, and the oxpecker, I think this is. So oxpecker, just in case if you don't know how they help the buffalo, they take off ticks, which is really helpful. They also will call out if there's like a animal around, like a lion or whatever, something like that, a predator. And how does the buffalo help the oxpecker? Well, it has food. It has ticks on it, but it also doesn't care too much with, it's kind of like iffy whether it's helpful, but they can reopen wounds and keep pecking at like the animal's blood or meat, which sounds kind of gruesome, but this is wildlife, right? So there is this kind of like payoff, and overall, however they've evolved together, they're still working together. There's kind of like that give and take. I'm sure if the oxpecker got too much, then they would stop having them on them, right? Which would kind of leave this one a little bit more vulnerable to like predation and maybe like not having enough to eat. So there has to be a balance, right? There's always going to be a balance. And so this kind of feels like, trusting that while you are on some kind of like spiritual like mission or pilgrimage or something like that, you are also here to experience this earth very clearly with this. This is an exchange within self. Going within is to understand, what parts of me do I want to express as a human? What parts am I expressing myself as a soul? And what is the life meant to be like? You're not here to be just fully on spiritual and fully on human or fully on 3D. It's like a blend. It's a harmonious blend. Sometimes it'll be more here and sometimes more there. Okay. Just want to see if there's anything else. I guess to sum it up, how do you step into your destiny or stepping into your destiny? This is believing and trusting the messages and intuition that comes through. Especially if you've been told in the past, oh, you're making things up, or your emotions aren't valid, or some kind of crazy stuff like that, right? It's all valid. There's purpose and reason for it. Understanding what is ego and what is not ego is going to be a journey. It's like, what is intuition and what is my ego just trying to scare me from doing something that's different, right? It's kind of like, it could be anything really. I don't really have a specific example, but moderation and balance is really key here. You're here to be both soul incarnate and also human life. That's really important in this. These kind of left it a bit iffy, but because they both came through, it's also very clear that this is meant to be uncovered, right? The moon doesn't shine its light, which is just reflection of the sunlight, on everything. It's not all clear. It's not like the daytime where everything you can kind of see unless it's hidden. But you can't see everything when it's just moonlight. It's very like iffy, or it's dimmed, right? It's just like you get the idea of what it is, but you don't see exactly what it is. So I would say with this, take everything day by day. You're on the path already of unfolding. There's still like, materialistic kind of like tendencies or ideas that are really important to you, and some of those are important and need to be fleshed out. And some of them are not really the key to what you're doing here anyway. So have like a think or a feel into this reading and see what resonates, what doesn't. Maybe this will be one to come back to. You might even want to look at it in 6 months and set a reminder in your calendar to come back to this particular reading. I'm not sure. Whatever works for you, right? But that's your reading part number 1. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for letting me read for you today. Hope this helps. Look out for yourself and each other, and I'll see you next time. Hello. Welcome to your reading pile 2. So you've chosen the mystery crystal. See the little band? It's really interesting. It reminds me of old school marbles. Okay, nope, put it up there. And you've chosen the ring. It's interesting with this reading, the energy that was coming through was like blessed. There's something blessed here, stepping into, or like a message of destiny, right? It's like there's some kind of union or communion that's really important here. If you look at human design, don't have to be, but like you might be a left angle cross, which generally the difference between the right and the left is right is more central, it's like focused within and your path, whereas the left is the path is met with many interactions and many variables, right? There's purpose and reason for a lot of those. That's how you reach destiny, let's say, or reach goals. That's not how always life works, right? But that is just like a theme that was coming through. So, interesting one. It could come into ideas of grandeur with like relationships, marriage, that kind of thing as well, or business with this ring, because the ring to me is like an idea of wealth or an idea of community, right? Sometimes you'll have like the Americans have those rings that say that they've won a Super Bowl or something, that kind of stuff. But they also like commitments, right? With wedding, marriage, they stand for something. They're not just for show. They're like a reminder of a commitment or a contract. All right, let's see. I'll grab this one for you. All right, so we're talking about destiny. Now, sometimes destiny can be a bit of an iffy one. Some people don't believe it, right? We make what we make. I believe that as well. And certain things I believe that will come into our life because we pre-arranged it, so to speak. But I don't believe our life is all fully kind of like automated. No matter what we do, it's going to happen, and whatever we do was going to happen anyway, because it feels kind of like off, right? It's like, so I was destined to eat this. Well, then I won't eat it. Well, and then it's like, well, you were destined not to. So it's like, well, then you have free choice, basically. Yeah, I'm going to take this one. Okay, let's take a look at your oracle cards. So you have the Saint Christopher. Christopher, I believe, is the traveler saint. This is an interesting depiction of him. But we've got soul journey. Right, so this commitment is part of your soul decisions, contracts. When I've looked at other people's soul kind of like callings or contracts and things like that, when I was doing a past life reading, it felt like the soul and whatever guidance it had around it was creating the contract as the life was going on. So it's kind of seeing many different paths and creating the contract as it went on, and decisions that were made by the incarnated portion of itself, I guess you could say. So it was interesting because it wasn't like it's not like a linear time, right? You have like, okay, here's your pre-life stuff, you get into the life, you do the past life stuff, and that's it, you go on. It's more like the pre-life stuff's here, blended in with probably the end life stuff, blended in with the current life, like it's all being created live, so to speak. It's interesting, and that kind of feels like here you're on this path of rewriting a story, or even following a particular path that you feel called to at this time. This is seems like a theme. This card didn't come out before, but it's just like this idea that's popping up is seeming like a theme. Got the golem and chala with creation, control, and consumption. This is like what we're focusing in on. Can distract us from where we're being played in a way. Because when we're born in this like world, wherever you are born, you kind of see your life as very much what you're experiencing, right? Whether you're poor, rich, whether you're like in the United States of America, or like I don't know, China. You know, it's like it's all very depending on where you're from. Like that's where we pick up culture and language and that kind of thing. Sometimes that can be really helpful to find unity and you know, bring lightness to community, and it can also keep us controlled or like stuck in cycles, stuck in like, this is how it's supposed to be, right? Because I was born here, therefore I have to be like this. I look like this, so I have to be like that, you know, all that kind of stuff. Be very aware of what you are consuming. That can also be like news, can be what if you watch a lot of horror, right? Sometimes you might be fine with it, but you feel kind of like something afterwards. It's like that energy doesn't always stick with you, but it can rub off some kind of like vibe. So be just very aware of what you're consuming. Whenever I go back to my parents, they're always consuming a huge amount of news. Not always, but like, you know, that'll be on and my dad will talk to me about it. It's like, this is bad, isn't it? It's so bad, it's so bad. And it's like, yeah, because you keep watching it. You've watched it from the morning and the noon news, and then there's crap on during the day, and then at night it's like the same stuff just keeps cycling and cycling and cycling. And this isn't even covering like 1% of what's happening out there. There's so much more. It's trying to keep us stuck, right? It's kind of trying to keep us controlled or minimized. Because yeah, you're so much more than this. I think you already know this. Also, I didn't even say, but it's just funny now that the Cherub and Metatron's Cube's coming out with Angel Guides, Love, and Harmony. Again, this could come through with like, you know, we might be like, okay, this is very esoteric or very like broad. When will I meet this person? This could be the card to help for love and relationships, especially if that's where you're desiring to go, because you're allowed to go in that path. You don't have to follow that path if that's not what you want. But if you're, you know, whether this is fulfillment within through that romancing of self or through that love of connection and finding a partner, whatever it is, it's like, you know, there's that in here. We did talk about commitment before. But what I didn't say was that before your reading, Archangel, what was her name? Shamuel? It was coming through as well. So to support this reading, which I feel like she is really highlighted within the higher heart chakra, which is like the romance side of the heart. And usually comes through with like a pink vibe, like a pink colored vibe. Okay, let's take a look. You have standstill. Right now, it feels like like you might be either feeling like things aren't moving fast enough for what you want or anything like that, or this could be just a reminder to be patient. There's something has to be either played out for some of you, and then one side of it is just a need to be still to recognize this. Like, what am I being pulled into? What am I being controlled by? Who am I? Whose energy is suffocating my energy, you know? Because you don't need to allow it in. if it's not yours. You don't need to hold on to it if it's not yours. If it's old stuff, you don't need to keep it. You know, it's time of this, like, you're literally on a path, and you know, it's battered and bruised, right? He's got some marks on his arms and like his body. Oh, Mars, yeah. Look, speaking of marks, you got competition, action, willpower, and you also have Virgo. Interesting. Analytical, functional, and efficient. You know, there's many sides of like shadow and light on everything, right? Everything. Virgo sometimes has that shadow of over-analysis, of analysis paralysis, of criticism of others and self, especially being, you know, actually in sidereal and tropical, my sun sign is Virgo, so I can see that throughout life. But here it's talking about like the importance of, right, analyzing situations, understanding. If I sit back and think about when I was a kid and I was in line to play a particular new game, if I was watching sometimes the people in line and also the game. So if I watched the game, I could learn like some stuff before I got there. If I watched the people, I could see the people who weren't paying attention, who were just chatting in line, and then once they got to the game, they were going to, you know, they forgot everything or weren't listening or like paying attention, so they missed out. So it was interesting just observing the situations or people, and I feel like that could be a good time, especially if there's lack of movement. I'm not too sure with the Mars coming through. Willpower talks about strength, and it does feel like with him, right, there's this like idea of something worthwhile takes effort. It doesn't mean it should be super harming to self, of course, but that's the idea of, even Mars has that idea of rage, right, as like a shadow, and in the light is being able to move through and create a path and trailblaze and kind of like finish things, right? Start things, finish things. Okay, so let's grab some tarot. You've got the King of Cups. This is a nice, really nice sign of moving into emotional strength and security. You might have gone through some crazy shit as like a kid, or as like just generally in life, right? And some of them have fallen by the wayside, and now you're like, well, now what? Connecting with your soul purpose is really important here. Like, destiny will unfold as per what you're focusing in on, and your emotional strength and strength in general is where it's at. You could even be starting to do some stuff that's like different to what you would normally do. You might have just gone to work and come home and, you know, just did that kind of rat race type life. But you've also got the King of Swords as well. And so this is like the emotional and the mental, right, with these two. And they're very stable energies. Sometimes, like even in shadow, the King of Swords can be kind of just like blasé, or just kind of like bored with it all. And it's hard when your mind's going here and doesn't want to deal with here. But I feel like the King of Cups is really important. It's emotional maturity. But he didn't get there by just being born that way, right? No one really does. You learn it through challenges, through experience, through others like me watching the kids play. I mean, I was a kid at the time. I was in line, I was a child. But like watching the other peers play sports, and ones that weren't looking and ones that were paying attention, and just like observing, right? I was a very like keen observer with that kind of stuff. Okay, what else? You have the Moon card. And the High Priestess. Okay, that's interesting, because the Moon card and the High Priestess, I've shuffled this deck, but they came through in the last pile as well, together. And again, it's trusting intuition, right? These two together feel like trusting intuition. The King of Swords knows who he is, like knows where he's meant to be. He kind of is like at a point of contemplation and sometimes analyzing and trying to see like, well, what's next in my destiny? And I feel like your destiny is really driven by where you put focus and where you put energy. Where you put your connections with people. Maybe these are other people as well, these two kings. The moon talks about like our inner world, and the high priestess talks about trusting our inner knowing or self. Sorry if you can hear the truck going past, it is rubbish day. All right, let me see if there's anything else to say about this. I mean, I guess I can talk about the overall energy of this reading. It kind of feels like you're on a journey of something new for your soul, right? Some kind of experience that you may have experienced in the past, but this is a very different way because you're in this time, and there's no time and exact version of you that's ever done what you're doing and being you in this time. Being really aware of the benefits of stationary energy, because this is like fast energy or wanting to be fast, right? It's Mars. And Virgo is not about rushing into anything. Virgo is like preparing. So it's like being very aware of what is pulling your energy, what are you consuming physically and like mentally as well, like visually, news, sound, all that kind of stuff. And also like food, what you take in. Because here the golem's focusing on this delicious bread, is not really even paying attention to the little guy who's keeping him controlled. There may be purpose and reason for it, and like good guidelines are nice, right? But where am I being stuck? Because your destiny is not supposed to be in entrapment. It's meant to be in connections with stuff which do have rules and regulations, right? Sometimes with like marriages and stuff, they have you and your partner communicate to have whatever life you want to have, or like these are the rules. I don't want you sleeping with someone else, or that kind of stuff, right? Sometimes they're unspoken, sometimes they're spoken. Probably better to speak it anyway if you're in a connection. But that kind of stuff, right? It's like those are fine, but not when it's to the detriment of like my freedom. This is a path that doesn't really have a lot of barriers in it, but it does mean the mind has to be let free. Like your mind and your emotions and your heart need to be let free. So surrendering feels like a part of this as well, even though it didn't come up in any cards. It's just like maybe opening up to all versions of like love and truth could be part of this destined kind of reading, stepping into destiny. There's good reason and purpose for this card coming through, and I want to read the card if I can find the box. All right, so this one is the Sacred Destiny Standstill. So I'm just going to read part of this to you. So it says here what it wants you to know. It says, if it feels that some areas of your life have slowed down or even come to a standstill, you are right. Something is not progressing. Even if it seems that things are flowing, look beneath the surface. Perhaps something is immovable. The first step to becoming unstuck is to acknowledge where you are. The soul loves truth. In life, you can either say, there are no weeds, or you can notice the weeds and begin pulling them out. Notice what isn't working in your life and then take slow, steady steps to unblock the barriers. In nature, when one is being stuck in the mud, the worst thing you can do is struggle. The best thing you can do is slowly and carefully, one step at a time, extricate yourself. My mouth wanted to say extract yourself, but it's extricate. Anyway, so I don't believe you're in a standstill for any other reason than meaningful analysis, meaningful like understanding, comprehension, and really, really feeling into this. These two kings feel really connected in some way. And these two cards feel like harmonious. So again, this idea of coming together for something. I don't know exactly what that is, but maybe look at it from a point of view of you and your house, you and your country, you and your partner, you and like wanting a different life, right? Or something like that. There's like this idea of being able to meet in the future in some way. meet your dreams, meet your goals that you have now in the future by focusing on what's the next step towards that goal. I think that's it for you, pile number 2. A really nice reading. I hope this really helps. These readings have gone really long today, but I hope this really helps you. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. You can also like if you like the message. Other than that, look after yourself, take care, and I'll see you in the next reading. Hello, hello, welcome to your reading, pile 3. So you've chosen the Mystic. What an interesting one to pick, especially about destiny, right? And you've also chosen this transparent looking crystal. I would say it could be like a phantom amethyst, is it? Phantom something. There's some things like called a phantom. It's like this really light purple color, but I can't remember what it is, an amethyst, or if it's, you know, agate or something like that. Anyway, I like the transparency with here. It's like having an eye on something, and it's like a very clear vision of where you're going, knowing that it's going to take and have transformative properties in this life. So you may be very aware of your destiny with the Mystic, and it's going to be your own kind of vibe with this, your own version of what this is, what this path is going to be. So let's take a look at stepping into this destiny. When I say stepping into it, doesn't mean you're out of it. It just is like a how to keep the flow going, or like maybe looking at it more than just a singular one-way road and seeing the many off roads that you can look at, or sidetracks, because sometimes it's nice to take a little tour down an unknown road and you might find something that you really like, right? Like a new adventure. Okay. Yeah, I want these two. Yeah, I can put these here. Oh, this one's a bit shiny. I'm just going to move these. Okay. Put some of these two here. Destiny can be kind of like a funny word, right? Destiny, you were destined for this or weren't destined for that. Can be a positive or a negative, depending on who you are. You have control over what kind of experience you want to experience in this life. It doesn't have to be dictated by anyone other than you. But if you're called towards something and you know it gives you life and you enjoy it, why not develop in that or look into it? All right, let's have a look at your cards. Interesting, this one came out in pile number 1 as well. You've got Michel de Nostradam, which is Nostradamus, is probably more commonly known, with premonitions, like being able to see the future in a way, right? He had a lot of like criticism and stuff, but future sights are interesting because if they're happening immediately after you wake up, then there you go, it's happening. But if it's something for like a year away or like 2 years away or something like that, you know, we can do things to avoid or capitalize or whatever on that particular intuitive sight, right? That future sight. So you might be getting some stuff in dreams, might want to write them down. There could be stuff from past lives, I feel here, or even just ancestors, but I would say it's like a lot of past lives. You've got the Mother and the Vampire Ashes. It's interesting I said past lives because when I created this, I had the envisioning of seeing this as something from the past that she hasn't been able to get rid of, and it's still haunting, right? It's still haunting. It doesn't feel like it's like super dangerous now, but as we suppress things over and over and over and over, or just ignore like sights and signs, right? If we're starting to pick up on spirits or like seeing a lot of stuff in the corner of our eye, you know, we can ignore it as long as we want, but eventually we'll have to face it in some way. But you know, what this card really is also saying is this is the Mother of Vampire Ashes with love attached and awareness. So it's being aware of your abilities and your skills and that kind of stuff. You're being told a lot of stuff by Spirit, I guess. What else do they want to say? You know, it also has the loving nature, nurturing signs here. She's very caring towards her children, but they're even starting to pick up and see it as well, what she is not wanting to face. So yeah, it could be going on a very interesting path. This also feels like shamanic potentially for some of you as well. I've got trine, positivity, luck, and auspiciousness. So this is a good moment, like on your journey, life journey, this is a great moment to be in right now, to start to deal with these things, or to start to like believe and trust in yourself, believe what you're feeling and seeing. Because when we look at the round of the world as well, sometimes we'll be like, I won't believe in this, but look at all this other crazy stuff that's happening that is just happening, and we're like, what are we doing about it? Nothing. Like, whatever I'm experiencing, feeling, is nothing to do with the wildness of what's happening in the, you know, in the wilds of this world, whether it be first world or just like in nature, right? It doesn't really matter. There's still that. You've got disconnect, withdrawal, and reception. Interesting with the moon void, of course. Disconnect is interesting because it feels like you're starting to reconnect some stuff or some tales. Even if this could even be something like, you know how people do in Australia, we have this show called Who Do You Think You Are? And they'll get a celebrity or someone or whatever, and they'll go through their like historic records, where they came from, what boat they might have come from, over from, you know, or if there was like if they were a prisoner or whatever coming through over from the UK, right? Something like that, or like immigrants or whatever, like any kind of thing, and they just go through it all. So there's something like that energy that could be, could shed some light. Sometimes you find stuff that you may not have wanted to see or hear, but regardless, it's truth, right? So once you can see it, you can release it as well, almost immediately. It's kind of interesting like that. Purification, yeah, interesting with release. And when we're just talking about releasing, it's allowing yourself to unfold the true you to come through. This is like the past could be a person, but it could also be just like society, right? It's like, oh, you're a woman or a man or whatever, you need to be like this, you're supposed to be like this, supposed to be like that. You do this job, you're supposed to be like this, supposed to be good at that. Whatever, this is like clearing all that bullshit out, and keeping what resonates and leaving what doesn't. Just as this reading is keeping what resonates, leaving what doesn't, so should your interactions and past memories and everything, and culture and like expectations due to looks, height, gender, race, whatever, you know, all that kind of stuff. Wonders, yeah, you're gonna go on a journey of spiritual understanding, awakening, something like that. You've got the Wonders card. It's kind of interesting because I always see this as like traversing time to find purpose and meaning. It's interesting because this crystal in the background is a quartz, but it's purpley, and quartz is kind of transparent as well, so it really does match with this. Could be like a phantom jasper or something, I don't know. If you want to look up phantom crystal, it's like that's really very pale purple, but transparent. You might be able to find it. Regardless, I don't think the crystal is like, you know, going to unlock the secrets of here. It's pretty clear that you are going through, you're getting a lot of like messages, or your abilities are starting to come through that are outside of the ones that you've been using now. And they're not to overtake them, they're to be utilized, right? We don't just close our eyes because we're mostly using our sense of taste or something like that. Sometimes we do when we're eating and chewing to really like focus in on the taste and the smell and that kind of thing. But you know, you can use all your gifts and skills, even the ones that are starting to break through. Okay. Oh, Ace of Cups, very nice. Death card. End of the old you and the beginning of the new you. I talked about this card in Power 1 as well, so again, if you're drawn to it, you might want to look at it. Doesn't mean it's necessary, it's just coming through. But this is a new way of connecting with your true self. Like these feathers feel like messengers from Source, Angels, God. you know, whatever you subscribe to or want to call it. And we've got this moth here, Lunar Moth, which really plays into this kind of idea of this moth too. Queen of Swords, cutting what no longer serves you. This is someone who's experienced. She knows what's right for her. She's kind of like, you know, Orlena Tyrell in a way, like the Game of Thrones type situation. Like she did exactly what she needed to do, or thought she needed to do to get what she wanted, right, all the time. And she was able to not really care what with pleasantries sometimes, you know, that kind of thing. But this is like, can be sharp tongue and probably more of a darker kind of energy, but in a lighter, it's just knowing what you deserve and sticking to your boundaries and rules. So you're not here to just completely open up and then change who you are. You're growing within who you are. That's part of your destiny as well, and to leave the past in the past. All right, and we've got more owls coming through. Got a lot of owls, right? Owl, 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 owl. They all look like barn owls to me. I don't think these ones are. I don't know what they are. But I think these two are barn owls. I don't think we have them over here in New Zealand or Australia. Not that I'm in New Zealand, but in these two countries. But I've always liked them. I think they're really interesting, right? They're really pretty. Anywho, got the Eight of Swords. This is like that stuck energy or feeling stuck. Sometimes it's not really stuck. It's just like mentally like, I don't want to expand further out of this because then I have to deal with it. That kind of thing. And the guides aren't necessarily helping you like pull you out, but because they know that you can just stand up. And when you stand up, it's probably at your knees or your waist. And then you can just get out of the hole when you just stand. That's basically all you need to do. So why would they help when they know that you can just stand and then step out of what may be safe and secure, but it's old and no longer fruitful? So yeah, interesting. This disconnect is time to disconnect from that in a way as well. And reception, opening up to something new, death and rebirth, something that's more emotionally fulfilling, that's more you, that's more real. While containing or maintaining your purpose and vision, right? You're not here to discard the old you. You're here to like grow on top of. Which is kind of weird because it's reminding me of this weird little insect that when it sheds its skin or exoskeleton, it keeps the shell of its head on top. So it has like a head on top of a head on top of a head. They're all old versions of itself. But it kind of confuses enemies, or like, probably not enemies, right? But prey that might eat it, and they look at it and it's like, oh, this is really weird. I'm not going to touch that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that. I don't know why that popped up, but it's just like all that stuff, all that past stuff still accumulates with you and stays with you. It just doesn't have to be the stuff that holds you back from further progression. You can even utilize that stuff as like not growth, as like very clear lessons learnt, right? Very clear lessons. You survived when it was like difficult, and now you've accumulated a huge amount of blessings and growth to be able to deal with whatever is to come next. This is really nice. I would say you're going through like a rebirth in a way, kind of like a new you, Buddhist type thing. I don't think I have anything else to say about these cards. I want to read a little bit of the Mother and Vampire Ashes because I haven't actually read my book on stream. Hopefully there's no spelling mistakes. So let's have a look. Okay, Mother and Vampire Ashes. So I'm going to read the story. So it says here, a devoted mother's focusing on nurturing her children, unaware of the lingering shadows of past attachments. Her children, sensing their ominous presence, warn her of the potential danger, urging her to acknowledge the unseen forces. It says here also, at times, vampires come into our lives. They can be intentionally energy draining or not. And what I mean by that with intentionally energy draining, they might be people that know their energy and are trying to, utilize it to hurt or to like take other people's like good energy and drag them down. And sometimes they're just in wild energy and they don't know what to do, so they just kind of like a loose wire sparking everywhere. It's not trying to kill anyone, right? But it could. So you got to kind of like be wary of it. Sometimes they can be like that. You may have met someone going through a challenging time and you love to help them, but how have you felt afterwards? If you feel drained, it's time to get yourself together and see what way you can cut some ties to that source. Or let yourself have some alone time, which is interesting with hair cutting cords. Okay. So yeah, it could be a good time of expansion. The mystic is sometimes we'll talk about mystical healers or like psychics, right? And things like that. This is an addition, not so much a new version of you. It's a new version of you in a way, but not in a way of canceling out the old. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. I hope this has really helped you. Pile number 3, really nice message, especially going into a new space for you, a new way of being you. The path is very clear with this reading. It's to uncover more of like truth about self. Auspicious time, right? Good time, good luck. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. Take care, pile 3. Look after yourself, and I'll see you next time.